This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Hello and welcome to We Are Starfleet, home of the Star Trek podcasting business here on the Film Stories Podcast Network. My name is Mike Slamer, and with me here in the virtual studio is Ian Buckley, Craig McKenzie, and Ashley Thomas. We have a full crew complement for this special holiday Thanksgiving recording. Hey guys,
Good.
How y'all doing today?
Great.
Yeah.
Doing well.
Ready. Excited to talk with you guys today. It's been a minute since we've all gotten to record, so.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a new show coming out on Paramount Plus titled STARFLEET Academy.
We do?
So I figured it might, I thought it might be a good idea to get together and maybe hash it out a little bit, chat about it, and see what we see. You know, we don't know a whole lot about STARFLEET Academy, and this is the first time we're really going to get a real big deep dive into what the Academy is all about, but they're switching it up on us. It's in the 32nd century. It's got a killer cast, and come on, a podcast is where we talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it's strange that we're finally getting, I know this has been commented on before, we're finally getting this Starfleet Academy show that's been threatened since the 70s. I mean, you go back to the very earliest days of like, how can we continue to iterate on this Star Trek idea? Well, we'll see young Kirk and young Spock and young McCoy in the Academy days and the adventures that they get up to there. And lots of ideas have been tossed around for series, for movies. There was even a Starfleet Academy movie that got greenlit after Star Trek V disappointed, and then, there was a leadership change at Paramount, and so that never happened, and we got Star Trek VI instead, which I'm very happy about. But it's, it's a thought that's clearly been on the mind of Star Trek creatives for decades. We got a bit of a taste of this in Star Trek 09, the J.J. Abrams, kind of Kelvinverse gave us some glimpses of Starfleet Academy life and life as a cadet. But yeah, this is the first time we're actually getting like a proper deep dive into this is what the experience of going to Starfleet Academy is like, and it's set in this distant future that we've really only explored in a few seasons of Discovery. So it's an interesting time and era for this idea to finally come to fruition.
You forgot the Academy video game as well that was out on the PC.
That's true. They did do a video game. Yep.
That was the last time that William Shatner, George Takei, and Walter Koenig were on screen together as their characters.
That's fun trivia.
I feel like that's a super, super deep cut trivia question. Like that's a daily double on Jeopardy for sure.
Yeah, it was a good game, actually. Punishingly difficult, as a lot of 90s games were, because you have no mid-mission checkpoints. So if you're getting towards the end and you get blown up, you're doing the whole bloody thing again.
No save states.
No.
All right.
You probably could now, although you can buy it on GOG, and I don't know if you can mod it to have save states. Maybe
I think they made a Klingon Academy too, didn't they?
Yes, which is a way better game. But it's the same problem. You're 90% of the way through a mission, you get blown up, start again.
Those good old days of full motion video games.
Yes, absolutely.
Those were classic, though. Ashley, Star Trek 2009, we talked about it on this podcast before. That was your entry point. Seeing Starfleet Academy in that movie, as Ian mentioned, there was always this desire to see Kirk, Spock, and McCoy meet for the first time. What would their interactions be like at the Academy? And then, of course, we get that whole movie as it pops off and reinvigorated the franchise in a big way. seeing it and then understanding that now we are pivoting and going to the 32nd century. What are your thoughts on this?
Honestly, I'm really happy it's in the disco era.
Yeah?
And it's not just because I love the Discovery characters. I'm so excited that we're getting Mary, we're getting Tig, we're getting, oh my gosh, gentleman who plays Admiral Vance, Oded Fair.
Oded Fair.
Yeah. We're getting all of these recurring characters from Disco that I love, but we are going to be done with prequel syndrome. Like, maybe saying done is not the right word, but we're loosening the shackles of having to, where does this fit in with, established Star Trek canon? Boldly go somewhere, y'all. Boldly go somewhere. That's what I want more than anything. As much as I've enjoyed the majority of this new Trek we've gotten, and as much as I love Strange New Worlds, I would love it if we broke new ground and went forward into the future. Let's keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there may have been some hesitation around doing. I mean, I don't think there was the same desire this time around to go back to the Kirk, Spock, McCoy era with Starfleet Academy. I think that's pretty clear. I think it remains to be seen whether they do something really interesting and unique with this future setting that they couldn't have done by setting it after the events of Picard, say, which would still have been forward, would still have been, if we set this after Prodigy, if we set this after Lower Decks, if we set this after Picard, like there are centuries of Star Trek storytelling that go unexplored by setting this in the disco era, which is fine. It's an interesting way to move forward with Starfleet Academy as a concept. Is we're not just we're not just setting this in like the early 26th century. No. We're going all the way to 32nd, and my hope is that they justify that in more than just the sense of we wanted to bring back some of the folks from disco. Like I get that. Like that's fine. Like it'll be good to see them again, but also I hope that they give us more of a reason for why this was finally the right era to set this at. The circumstances of this long gestating idea were finally right, and this is now going to be the best possible iteration of this idea. Like that's my hope, is that they really justify this decision, because it's a big one, and it's like this is it. There's not going to be another crack at this concept. Like if this is the only Starfleet Academy show that we get, I want it to be a good one.
I think coming off the heels of Star Trek Prodigy, which showcased Starfleet Academy, I think in the most like holistic way that I personally have always envisioned it, being like a classroom environment with practical exams and work study groups, and of course, away missions with various officers to experience life in the starship. That makes a lot of sense to me. So I was sort of looking forward to returning to that era that Star Trek Prodigy takes place in, which I believe is, early 25th, right?
Just before Picard season 1.
Right. Okay. Perfect. To me, it's a surprise to jump forward, but also it's not a surprise in that era, the 32nd century, that disco kind of established. There's a ton of storytelling, and I think for audiences watching Star Trek, especially the new audiences that this show is hoping to gain, it's a little bit more of a blank slate to attach itself to.
Yeah, you don't have the burden of all of this legacy, although they can't resist. We'll get into that. They can't resist like reaching back for legacy characters and finding ways to incorporate them, or giving us little Easter eggs, little clues, little fodder for fans to pour over and discuss, like the little teaser about, are we going to learn the fate of Cisco from one of those first look trailers that we had? Like, these decisions to bring back like the EMH and what iteration of the EMH is that, what's going on here with this character, and obviously bringing back the characters from Disco 2. But you're right, I think setting it this far forward does give you more of a blank slate and less feeling like you're beholden to these other legacy characters in these other eras. If you set it a little bit after Picard, then every fan's gonna like wonder, well, why isn't the crew from Lower Decks making an appearance? Why aren't any of the TNG, DS9, Voyager folks making an appearance? Like, why this? Why this? Why this? We know these characters are all still around. Now, by setting it in the 32nd century, you don't have to worry about any of that.
Unless you have guest lecturer holograms.
Unless you have guest lecturer holograms. That's right. Yeah, that's true. You could have a completely holographic representation of legacy characters, legacy settings that we've seen before that are now being recreated in the 32nd century through technology. And that is a way that they could dip into having a bit of their cake while eating it too, and saying like, well, we're not just doing legacy baiting here, but also we couldn't resist the opportunity to have one of our new castmates, participate in a holodeck program with some legend from the past.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, there was talk of the blank slate, and I think that in principle that's a really good idea. So we have this era that's so detached from the previous eras we've seen, and therefore it doesn't have to be beholden. But then the trailer has the wall of named references. It has the James T. Kirk Pavilion or whatever it is. It has what happened to Benjamin Sisko. Well, we know what happened to him. He just went into the wormhole. And did he ever come back?
Yep.
Don't really care, to be honest. I feel like that was somewhat nicely enigmatic. But also, this should be an era where none of the characters really care. Why would they care about someone that lived and died centuries ago? So you need to have characters in there that would say, James T. Kirk, I don't care who he was. He was a captain that lived centuries ago. He's not important to me. Because that's the way history works, isn't it? You'll just have people in the modern era that don't care about anybody that lived 800 years ago, unless they're interested in history. So there needs to be some of that. And I'm not convinced there will be. We have the EMH, obviously he's there. We've got Discovery characters. And we have a villain, which we do not need. And the thing that I've been thinking about with the villain is, because I assume this is set after Discovery's finale, but before the prologue, before the epilogue. It'll be set in between that period, right? So ever since Discovery made it to the 32nd century, they've been essentially stopping apocalypses every season. So that's what they're up to. So presumably they continue to do that. So why are the cadets stopping this villain? Why isn't Discovery doing it? Because they do everything else. And I just feel like we're going to get so far away from this school show. And I really want a school show. I'm a big CW fan. I want to see a college show about Star Trek. I think that'd be great. And I think there's lots of really interesting things you can do with coming of age stories. And I feel like if they're fighting a villain, that's going to be detached from that, because it'll be all about fighting that villain, and there will be in theory lessons, and the Academy's a ship, but we were just doing another ship show. So I actually think the best era to set this in would be the TNG era, somewhere in the middle of the series, because that's your period of complete calm and affluence, and there's no problems. So then the problems are just suddenly more personal than are between these cadets. But that's not what we're getting, so there's no use me pining after it. It's just based on what we've seen so far, it feels like it's trying to appeal to me as a fan rather than bring in this teenage audience that might want to watch a college show. And that's a shame.
Also, I think it was Kurtzman that I saw giving an interview. Somebody who was talking about the show, and the concept of the show is like, well, we wanted to tell, college or school stories, like the kind of thing that you're talking about. But we wanted the audience to feel like these were like real Star Trek stories with real Star Trek like stakes as the reason for giving them this villain, these like big challenges, and like a lot of conflict. And I just it just felt like more kind of missing the point. Like we're not going to be disappointed because there aren't like pew pews every single week, or that there isn't some big overarching season-long villain story that we're unraveling. Like, you could just give us a Star Trek like college drama with like some away missions and stuff, and we'd be fine. It's Academy is in the name of the show. Like, if there isn't some goddamn schooling, I'm gonna be a little disappointed.
Yeah.
And again, like, Star Trek Prodigy has Academy members going off to save the universe.
Right.
So
I think the Voyager A journey in Prodigy like might be the best indication for like the kind of balance they're hoping to strike, where you have a crew who's on a learning ship who will go on missions, but between missions and also on missions, like there's the superstructure of you're in school, like this is field work, or you're doing rounds, you're having this like hands-on, in the field experience as a part of your college learning. Like, think of it as a semester abroad, except you're spending a semester in space. It's a 6-month mission instead of a 5-month mission, whatever. You can imagine the different ways that they could structure a working educational ship. I heard someone use the analogy of like a teaching hospital. Like, I like that idea. You sort of see that in Wrath of Khan, where you have this ship manned by a bunch of cadets, and you can sort of imagine that that's like maybe the last stage of their training is you're going to do rounds on an actual starship, and you're gonna go on some missions, and we're going to hold your hand a little bit, but it's going to be a working school. So I think that's probably the model for what they're going to try here.
Ian, you are pitching a show I want to watch so bad. And we're never going to get that show.
No, instead it's going to be, you're cadets, but you have to step up and save the universe from the evil Paul Giamatti, who is playing the wrong character here. He shouldn't be a snarling villain. He should be the disapproving headmaster.
Well, he should be the dean of students, not Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
He's the digital dean of students.
I saw that. I mean, listen, I have no problem with a fun cameo. So it's gonna be, is he gonna be like a physical manifestation, a hologram, or is he literally just gonna be the voice of, kind of like Majel Barrett?
I know there's been like a second trailer released, but I'm realizing now as we're talking, it's like, oh snap, I never went back and watched that. Whoops. Because I don't watch a lot of trailers because I'm afraid of spoilers, and I kind of just want to go in as fresh as I possibly can. I realize I am in the wrong line of work to be doing that. So I was always under the impression that he was more like Majel Barrett. Now I'm like, oh, he's more like Bob Picardo. Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting. I will say I'm not really all that upset about the idea that they have to go fight some big bad, because to me that feels like Prodigy season 2. That to me this is like I mean, I hate to mention her name, but this is Starfleet Harry Potter.
I was thinking the Magicians.
Well, I've never seen the Magicians,
Fair.
but from what I know about it, that tracks too.
Yeah.
For me, this, I'm not upset about how they've structured this show. I will say, as a Southern lady, it made me like, I cannot tell you how excited I am to have another woman that sounds like me, like, running the show. So the fact that we've got Holly Hunter running this show and people are taking her seriously and not asking her like, oh, do you have all your teeth and do you wear shoes? And being serious about that, because fun fact, I know people that have been asked those questions. And so that makes me really happy. I'm really excited to see her dynamic, being the captain of this academic ship. I kind of like the idea of it being like a training ship or an academic ship. All of that is just really exciting to me. And so as far as that goes, I'm not upset about this structure at all. And I really love that all of our Academy cadets are folks that I have never heard of. Not that I'm like the be all end all of knowing who people are in Hollywood. But most of these folks, this is like their first big break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which it should be for a show like this.
Yeah. It really should. It really should. And so I love like the no expectations. Or here's an opportunity for me to meet somebody new who might be really good and hasn't been given a shot yet.
Well, they should be young, and like they're all Academy cadets, right? So as far as the students go, like they should be young. They should be unknown.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be people who have some country miles, so to speak, on their resume. It's a whole bunch of fresh faces, as it should be.
Yeah, my counter to that would be we've already had Prodigy Season 2 and it was great and they don't really need to do it again. Structurally, I was reminded of Star Trek 2009, actually. You have this misspent youth who wants to just mess around and he gets dared by a captain to join Starfleet and then learns lessons along the way. It's no surprise that Kurtzman's doing it because that's the film that he wrote a while back, so he's doing that again. I was expecting less end of the universe stuff and more. It was probably an unfair comparison, but more Riverdale, because that's just the high school show that I can think of. It's more a college show, but there's strangely not that many college shows. They mostly do high school with 25-year-olds instead of college with 25-year-olds. But that's really what I wanted here. Like I say, I want the problems to be more personal. They have academic problems, they have personal problems, they have relationship problems, they have other problems that young people encounter, like drugs and whatever else. You could really do something within the Star Trek framework with all of that, and you could still have your action beats by way of lessons. They could go on a planetary survey and get hit by an ion storm and have to practically fix the ship or something. There's all these sorts of things they could be doing that aren't. There's a villain out there, and for some reason these teenagers have to defeat him.
Yeah, you have moments like in Discovery, which I think in the last season, where Tilly's, with some cadets or some young crew members, and there's an opportunity for, let's see how Tilly handles this young group of people who need to learn to work together, who come from different backgrounds. Like, there's stuff there. Like, if you give these characters an opportunity to be thrown into a difficult circumstance with a mentor with whom we're familiar, and give an opportunity for character growth and development, like that, I can see that show in my head. I think the concern with like having this like big Hollywood villain is that you're pulling focus, potentially, we haven't seen the show yet, from what could be really interesting character development and drama and interpersonal relationships over what is this, another 10 episode season? Is this
and there's going to be 2 seasons, and that's probably all we're getting.
Over and the premiere is a double episode, so really, you're talking about after the premiere you've just got like 8 more episodes to do a whole lot of character development and to explore all these character dynamics. I don't, and I say this as someone who loves Paul Giamatti. I think he's a wonderful actor. He's one of my favorite actors. But if it's a lot of screen time dedicated to this grimacing, snarling, menacing arch villain performance, and at the expense of the actual cadets about whom this show is based, like that is going to be a problem for me narratively. So hopefully they don't go that direction. Hopefully they
Well,
spend the bulk of the focus on the kids as they should.
Well, our Kirk surrogate has history with the villain, doesn't
Yep.
he? So
Of
there's
course,
gonna be
of
some
course
kind
he
of-
does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's going to be some kind of revenge angle in there, and it's going to be, we in Starfleet don't seek revenge, but you're probably going to get revenge anyway. It'll be fine.
Yeah, echoing your sentiment, Ian, Paul Giamatti, I was talking about this with my colleague earlier today, actually. There are very few, like, big powerhouse actors that are coming, to our screens as of late. They're all, Paul Giamatti is, I feel like, legacy Hollywood in a way, as opposed to the streaming era of media and movies and TV in general. So he's a big name, and to bring like a big name to your project, that's great. Do we want him in the villain role, and instead, of having him as the Grizzly headmaster, or as one of the co-stars of the show, or as some other character who might bring a lot more of that weight and gravitas to the role? It just feels like a missed opportunity to have someone at Paul Giamatti's stature, especially playing opposed to Holly Hunter. I feel like that's going to be a great dynamic between hero and villain in a lot of ways, but I don't know, missed opportunity. Remains to be seen.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll probably give a great performance
Oh,
because
yeah.
he so often does. It's just a matter of how is this character being deployed in the narrative, and is it pulling focus from other characters that we'd probably be better served to focus on in a Starfleet Academy show.
Yeah.
Further the Harry Potter connection, it would be, he would be better placed being a Snape type figure rather than
Yeah.
a villain.
That's a good way of providing an analogy. I
I do wonder whether he's going to be kind of a one and done villain for just this season and just this character that he's connected to, or whether he is going to be kind of an ongoing presence.
Well, it looks like Paramount, since this merger, are going to be gutting all the current projects. That's probably why we're seeing the end of Strange New Worlds. So I think they're going to honour their commitment to these 2 seasons and then forget this show ever existed and move on with whatever the new regime wants to play with. Unless it's amazingly popular, which you can never tell during streaming because they never tell you what the most popular stuff is. Or they tell you that it's popular, but you don't really believe them because they're not sharing any data. So I don't think this will last much longer than, or any longer than 2 seasons. I feel like it will just be this kind of flash in the pan experiment that came at the wrong time. And if it does get too bogged down in trying to appeal to the long-term Star Trek fans, then it just won't be inviting in a new audience, which is what this show should do. Prodigy, we've talked about a lot, that does invite in a new audience. It doesn't alienate your classic Star Trek fans, but it's primarily about the kids. Janeway and the Doctor and so on are supporting characters in their story. Whereas certainly this trailer, it just seems to be full of, hey, look, guys, we've referenced all this stuff that you like. And I want to see new stuff. I want them to, like I say, I want the college Star Trek show.
What do you guys think about the Academy now being a ship that visits different space docks?
Ugh.
Oh.
Okay, I have a different opinion, but Ian, you said first, so please go ahead.
No, it
No,
me
that was Craig.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
I like the idea.
Okay, so Craig, please
Yes.
Elaborate
Yes.
on your ick.
Yes, please elaborate.
It just seems like they're making another ship set show, and I had to make sure I emphasized the P at the end of that sound so that it was very clear. But it seems like they're giving us another one of those shows. They're just pretending it's a cadet show. So it's going to be, you'll have the cadets in the similar roles that we're used to of the bridge crew of starships, but it's just going to be another one of these type things, and they'll dress up the things they learn as lessons rather than their experience or whatever else, or just their day-to-day job. I really wish we were just centering on a college campus and they weren't part of the action, so to speak. They were learning. They were, they're preparing for the days where they do go out into space. And like Ian said, maybe there is a training ship that they get to go out and do stuff on. But I don't like this massive, over kilometers long starship that's going to be the Academy or attached to the Academy. I'm not super clear on that, but it's not something I'm a fan of.
It's a bit unclear in the trailers and some of the press that they've done, but it appears on the Wikipedia article. If you go to the Starfleet Academy TV series Wikipedia article, they do confirm, of course, check your sources, everybody, that Starfleet Academy follows a new first class of Starfleet cadets in over a century as they come of age. They are taught aboard the USS Athena, a starship that docks at the Starfleet Academy campus in San Francisco, but can also be deployed with the rest of the fleet. So we are returning to Earth. Are you happy about that?
Yeah, and we get glimpses of that in the trailers, but it does seem like they're maybe trying for a hybrid situation where they, kind of like what they tried to do with Deep Space Nine, although they might be a little bit off campus a bit more often. But, we have a station where most of our action is based, and then every once in a while we'll have something that needs to take our cast off station, and then they get onto a ship and they leave. We might have a similar kind of situation. I'm kind of with Craig in the sense that I would like, again, to my earlier point, if this is a show about school, I want to see school in it. I don't want it to just be another adventure of the week in space. I realize that on the one hand, like that for many, maybe even most people, is what makes a Star Trek show. But if you're going to do something a little bit different, give it some unique character, then I do agree that you need to actually follow through on that in how you're structuring your season, how you're deploying your cast and crew on a week-to-week basis. But I do like the idea of having a training ship that can go and do missions, maybe even some longer-term ones with classes that are studying things that can only be learned on missions in space. The kind of, all right, like we've worked on the theory in classes and we've done things in the holodeck. Now we're actually going to leave orbit and go out and venture into space. And I think, too, in this era, it may be in part a recognition of the fact that all of these students have been scattered. All of these are like far-flung, spacefaring people who are just now beginning to kind of recongregate in and around Earth. So it may be that these are people for whom space is already kind of second nature, and so setting them outward, like not just having them bound to Earth, for some of them might actually be better for their styles of learning or whatever. So I'm in favor of it overall, but I do want to see some actual schooling, like some classes, I want to see kids walking around in hallways giving each other shit. Like I want to feel like this is a school and not just a different Star Trek skin on everything.
I want to see a temporal mechanics lesson.
I want to see some lessons. Like again, to use the Harry Potter analogy or the magicians. Like let's see some characters have difficulty learning from a particular professor or like struggling with a particular class, and see how that class is going.
And I think like for a franchise like Star Trek, especially the modern series, where the production team are very proud of showcasing the different levels of diversity and challenges that people face, having a show that's set like this where they can actually showcase, those neurodiverse attitudes that people genuinely have in a really holistic way, would really showcase that representation in a real way rather than just, I think sometimes Star Trek gets some criticism that it kind of panders a little bit to the representation angle, and it doesn't really attach itself too well. So this is an opportunity to flip that script.
Yeah, there's some fun you could have as well, especially with young characters. You could have, say, a Denobulan character that practices polyamory, and then you have another character that isn't into that and really feels something for this Denobulan but doesn't realize that culturally they're used to having multiple partners at any given time. And it's just all these kind of cultural clashes, because a lot of the time with Star Trek we see adults and they're very accepting of everything they encounter because they've encountered it before, and you know, as soon as someone explains to them, okay, that's really cool, I want to learn more about it. But you might have these insecure teenagers, young adults that are very unclear on how different cultural practices work. And it doesn't have to be relationship driven. I used the Riverdale example earlier. That was very heavily relationship driven. But you can have all these things, all these cultural clashes, because they are learning about each other. They are learning about how the universe works that they live in. And there's all these different things that they have to think about, and that can all come to a head just in the classroom, in the social structures that they'll be living in. I think and again, that's what your show should be about.
And if I may, you know, kind of piggybacking on something Ian said earlier, I am pretty excited that it's actually going to be on a ship. I think, considering that this is set in a post-burn era, where people have been really isolated and there's not been nearly as much opportunity for cross-cultural encounter, I think the ability to travel and actually see other parts of the universe that you may have only read about in books and databases and things like that is a really cool opportunity for this series. And you know, and considering this is also coming out of a post-COVID production, and I hate even saying post-COVID because it makes it sound like COVID doesn't exist and people don't get it anymore, because that's certainly not true. But you know, we are post-pandemic stage where people have been isolated, and it, you know, sometimes even with, you know, the wonders of technology like what we are experiencing right this very moment as we record this podcast, even then, folks, it's easy for folks to feel isolated. And so kind of playing with that theme with a younger cast, I think is a really cool storytelling opportunity.
Assuming they do it.
Yes.
I'm not convinced.
Yeah. And that's fair. We have been burned many a time in recent memory. So, you know, here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
And the ship attaching to the Academy, it's a little bit like Discovery going back to Starfleet HQ at the end of every episode after they did whatever their mission was.
I could see that. You know, it kind of bookending, you know, the lesson, if you will. Starfleet Academy gets talked about a lot over the course of the franchise, and one of the reasons we're podcasting about Starfleet Academy is to also take a look at some of the episodes that have informed our knowledge thus far of what the Academy is all about. So in setting up for our next podcast episode, we're going to be talking about a couple of episodes from Star Trek The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Craig, do you want to cue our listeners up for what we can expect in our deeper dive discussions?
Yes, so listeners, your homework, should you choose to accept it, is to watch the Season 5 TNG episode, The First Duty, which is a Wesley Crusher episode. Don't let that put you off. It's probably the best Wesley Crusher episode. And it's the first look it's definitely the first look we get at the actual Academy, where we spend some time on the grounds. And the other one is Valiant, which is a Deep Space Nine episode in its 6th season that is set aboard a Defiant-class ship called the USS Valiant, run by a group of cadets who are, let's face it, idiots. And they may or may not come to a bad end. So watch those episodes.
Freaking Red Squad.
Yeah. Keep them fresh in
Both
your
of
mind.
these episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's Nova Squadron in the first one, but they're like a
that's true.
to
Yeah,
Red
that's
Squadron.
true. Yeah.
It's one of those things that after they brought up Red Squad in Deep Space Nine, I assumed that that's what it was in The First Duty, and then you rewatch it and you're like, oh, slightly different. But probably Ronald D. Moore took that and evolved it into Red Squad.
Oh,
anyway,
I'm
watch those
sure,
episodes. keep them fresh in your mind. We're going to do a deep dive into them, and we'll bring up other times the Academy is mentioned throughout the franchise as well. It comes up every now and again, but we only see it once. Yeah, actually, unless you count like Lower Decks and stuff, where they're on the campus a couple of times. But certainly until the modern era, we only saw it once, and there are only 2 stories about cadets.
Which feels like, you know, they also left a lot on the table, or maybe they just didn't know what to do with that whole story plot, you know?
It's very difficult to integrate it into your already existing show about adults doing their jobs. It's difficult to do that. And you have characters that are trying to be cadets, like Nog, for example. So you get a bit of the cadet experience through him, but he kind of comes and goes. And sometimes he's wearing a cadet uniform, and sometimes he isn't. And that's about it. But you do get a lot of mention of what went on at the Academy.
Yeah, Wesley and Nog are really our 2 kind of windows into the cadet / you know, getting ready to apply and get into Starfleet Academy, you know, process. I mean, you have the conversations about sponsorship and entrance exams and, you know, applying your shipboard learning experience for credits. You know, you do get a little bit of a taste of, oh yeah, this is an actual academic institution, some faraway place. You know, most of us who have dealt with school at some point in our lives, you know, can sort of recognize, you know, the language that they're using in terms of letters of recommendation and entrance exams. Like, we all kind of get that concept. But yeah, we don't actually spend a whole lot of time on the grounds of Starfleet Academy, seeing what that life is like. It's all kind of inference. So that'll be I'm like I said, I hope we're going to get a lot of actual school in the Starfleet Academy show, because that's the part we really haven't seen before.
Well, the cast is, you know, appropriately young. The cast, you know, looks appropriately as though they are supposed to be in a college, university type setting, and everything that the trailer kind of portrays seems to kind of fall in line with what Academy expectations would be. Like, you get plenty of scenes of them, you know, doing their PE courses, taking some exams, and going through some hardships. And of course, you get
lots of kissing.
Lots of kissing.
You wanted a CW show, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I think it's great that we're going to have some more Star Trek on the air. And I look forward to where this is going. I think they've got some fun cameos lined up. I'm a little disappointed, Ashley, to hear that Mary Wiseman is only going to be in like the first 2 episodes.
You know, people keep saying that, but I'm looking at IMDb, and honestly, the only person that's listed for all 10 is Stephen Colbert. So, I don't know.
Anyone can update that.
Yeah. So again, I don't know.
So that could be
cause,
that could be shaky information.
Yeah, I mean, because
it has been officially said that Mary Wiseman is only in the first 2 episodes of the first season. Whether she's in more in the second season, we don't know. But it's just I'm guessing Tig Notaro won't be any more than that. And maybe Vance, we'll see a bit more of him. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think that Admiral Vance is the best thing about the 32nd century.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to be happy anytime Mary's on the screen. I'm going to be happy anytime Tig is on the screen, because I adore both of them. I also know that Mary has a pretty busy stage career as well, which is why she had like kind of a limited role in Discovery Season 4. So I don't know how all of that's shaking out, but we'll see what happens. Because people kept saying that. They're like, she's only going to be in like 1 or 2 episodes. I'm like, but literally the only person that's listed for more than 2 on here is Stephen Colbert. So again,
it was officially said somewhere that she has a very limited appearance. I don't know if it's the first 2 episodes or whether it's the first episode and then maybe the last one or something like that. We'll find out. And
I'm gonna assume Michael tapped her for a special mission, and they're off doing something fun together. That's gonna be my personal headcanon. Everyone else, you may be inclined to agree with that if you.
It'll be a half a second line of dialogue that's just in one ear right out the other.
And
Yep,
I've made this prediction before, but I'll make it again since we're doing a primer for the show. I do think that the EMH will have been switched off 5 seconds after the last scene of Star Trek Prodigy Season 2, and he's just been switched on. Someone will knock over a box in a room somewhere, and the mobile emitter will fall out, and there he'll be, and he'll be like, he'll be mid-sentence as well. He'll be like,
would be classic.
"Yes, Admiral Janeway, I agree." Oh, where is she?
In the old uniform too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
In his Prodigy Season 2 uniform. Yeah.
How do we think
Or it
about
could be the EMH that left the Kyrian planet at the end of that episode of the Living Witness, because he'd be making his way back by about now.
He probably made it back to Earth by now.
Yeah.
What do we think about the Doctor being in the show?
Depends what they do with him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's Bob Picardo. I'm excited about it because I adore Bob Picardo. So I'm just I'm curious to see how they're gonna explain this away. I'm just like, I'm all ears. I have no theories here. So
someone knocks over a box, the mobile emitter falls out, hits the button, there he is. It's like, the last thing I remember was the early 25th century.
Fair enough.
I'm kind of thinking he's gonna fill that Boothby role, where he's just a legendary fixture on the campus, for his many hundreds of years of service at Starfleet.
There's another Paul Giamatti character that would work perfectly.
Honestly, yeah.
This groundskeeper type. He's the guy you go to for all the advice, or he could be like a bartender that fills the Boothby role. I would love that. They would just go and get drunk, and this Boothby guy helps them get drunk.
Yep.
Well, guys, this was a great chat for our primer part 1. Is there anything we want to tackle before we sign off? All right.
No, I don't think so.
I'm going to call it.
Well, I mean, I just hope it's good. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to do the deep dive next time.
Yeah. So, folks, as Craig has mentioned, you've got some homework. Valiant, the DS9 episode, and The First Duty, the TNG episode.
It's good homework, though. It's an hour and a half of good homework.
It's good TV. You're not watching, anything you don't want to see in the first place, right? So be on the lookout for that episode coming up next. Star Trek Academy is premiering in January 15th, and we will be having the coverage as you expect us to do so. We are going to have our rotating guests, of course, whoever comes from the Film Stories Podcast Network. We might have some outside guests. Who knows? It remains to be seen because we haven't booked anything yet. So be on the lookout for that. And my name is Mike Slamer. I am the host of the show, along with Ian Buckley, Craig McKenzie, and, of course, Ashley Thomas. We are rounding out your hosting crew here, and we will return probably in a couple of weeks with our part 2, diving into those 2 episodes. So, folks, thank you so much. Make sure you check the show notes to find out where you can find the rest of us on the internets. And until next time, live long and prosper.